All right. The Jared McCain piece. He was also the big talk of the summer just because the 16th overall pick. A lot of questions, even after the selection by the Sixers. And when he didn't play well, that really stood out for a lot of people. A lot of the warts that you saw coming in showed themselves in Utah and also in Las Vegas. Kyle looking at him and seeing how he played the entire summer, including what you saw from Las Vegas. How would you rate his time overall? Plus, what you also got a chance to see at practice while we were out there as well.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wrote a story about a week ago, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to sit here and wait until he has a good game and try to capitalize on that. And he didn't really have a good game until the last day of summer league, which is probably fine because if I had to actually write that article last night, I'm not sure I would have been in a state to do so. Look, he struggled. I think he ended up shooting like 26% from the field and 25% from three, something like that in Vegas. Utah was almost the exact same. So you have 8 games of data where he just did not perform well in terms of shooting the ball. I actually came away more impressed by his overall game than I was coming into it. I think the chemistry he found with big men coming off that pick and roll, especially with Bona, seemed like it was real. It was surprising to me, quite frankly, which is good because he's never going to be a high assist guy. He doesn't put enough pressure on the rim with his athleticism to really create that much attention and create kick out lanes. But where he can leverage his gravity to find passing opportunities is with big men. And I think he is pretty well developed, certainly more developed than I expected in that regard. And the shot, I'm not really worried about. I went back and watched a lot of his attempts. I think the form there was fine. I think those were shots he's going to make. I think when you look at the history of Summer League, a lot of players, especially rookies, struggle to make shots from the perimeter. It's not really something I concern myself too with. I think it becomes a little bit more pronounced with Jared because he really doesn't have much inside the arc. And that was if I have one negative takeaway, besides his defense, and the defense Sixers play was mostly garbage anyway. It was mostly zone, certainly more zone than it should have been. But I do think he's going to struggle one-on-one defensively at times. But I think finishing around the rim is just something he's going to have a career-long battle with. And because of that, when he has a stretch where he's not making shots from the perimeter, he's going to look really, really limited. But I think that shot is going to be there. I do think he's going to end up shooting 37, 38, 39, 40% from three-point range in the NBA. In part because I think he's got the range already in his arsenal, but in part because I think he's just going to benefit a lot from Joel Embiid. So I actually came away from the Summer League not as concerned as I would have. If you would have just told me these stats, I would have expected to be really concerned. But I do think watching it, and look, I don't want to misconstrue anyone here or mislead anyone here. Athletically, he's at a pretty serious disadvantage. 6'2", 6'3" wingspan, not a lot of burst around the rim. Like I said, he's never going to be a guy I think that puts a ton of pressure on the rim. Because of that, there's going to be limited shot creation out of it. But I think the combination of the shot, which I do still believe in, I think is a key weapon next to Embiid, and along with the chemistry I think he can develop with big men, I think he can be a useful rotational piece. And is that super exciting out of a 16th pick? No. But I think coming in, none of us were necessarily super excited about him because we recognized that there was that limited upside. I think the way Rich said it on that Friday show when you guys were traveling back, or no, what day did you guys travel back? Wednesday. That was Tuesday, whatever. That day that you guys were traveling back, when I was talking to Rich, he showed you the limitations that caused him to fall to 16, but you shouldn't necessarily have then changed your evaluation because of his shooting slump. So I think both of those were true. Like I said, I don't want to mislead anyone. There are limitations. We saw some of those limitations in terms of finishing in the paint and around the rim, but the shooting, I do think, will definitely come there. And I think because of that will be a valuable skill set.
Yeah, I think I came out of this caring about the limitations a little more, but I was not a gigantic fan of the pick when it was made because he's 6'2" and his signature skill is shooting, and that's just a really tough way to make a living as a guard in today's league, but especially as a guard on a team that is starting Tyrese Maxey and using Kyle Lowry as a backup, and where most of the guards who will be quote-unquote backup point guards will be smaller, right? Like there are not a lot of guys that are backup type guards. By the way, Joel just packed somebody's shot at the rim, so that's the best I've seen him move on defense all summer so far, so that's a positive. I just think his flaws are more meaningful at his height than they would be if he was 6'4", 6'5", because of all the different permutations of lineups that he might play in or play with or play for. I think that his inability to consistently create separation looks like a problem to me. I think if you the outside shooting, I 100% agree with Derek. Like, I think the consistency in the mechanics, the drills that we're seeing him run through out in Vegas with Rico Hines and TJ DeLeo and a lot of these other guys on the staff, like I think the work ethic is there. I think the mechanical consistency is there in a way that shows you, like, yeah, this kid will probably shoot. Do I believe he'll be able to do anything else consistently? Not necessarily, because if you look at the inability to create separation in these games, think about that against, actual NBA level competition, not summer league guys. And I think that that shows up not just as, he's going to struggle to finish inside the arc and at the rim. I think his playmaking opportunities will be minimized because of that inability to get by guys as much as he needs to. And so I'm still kind of like in the middle on the pick, right? Like, I do think part of the reason they made the pick is because he's young, right? And because you can sell him as an upside case to if he eventually gets moved, whether that's this year or the next couple of years. I do think they believe in the shooting as probably one of the big swing skills in the draft, right? Where that it might just be good enough that that'll be his path to playing time for the foreseeable future. But I have some real concerns about him, and I don't know that they're going to go away for a while, and that's fine, right? Like, he might not play a ton of minutes this year, and that's okay. Like, I would have preferred, if they're going to use the draft pick, maybe to use it on somebody that, if you're going all in, if you're going all out to try to win the next 2 to 3 years, somebody that I have better or more confidence in that they'll be able to step into the lineup right away. But it's not the route they chose to go, so we'll see how he turns out over the next few years. It was just nice to see after a lot of bad shooting games. I know that he only played the first half of that final game out in Las Vegas. It was nice to see a strong half for him. And maybe that was, I don't know this, maybe that was like hey, let's let him ride off on a high note in Las Vegas. Nothing much more to do or prove in that game. So preserve the good vibes. I'm all about that.
He is in a little bit of a weird spot because on the one hand, he's not super high upside because he can't really create his own shot and he's limited athletically, but he also doesn't seem like he's super close to being ready to contribute. So he is both a little bit risky and also a little bit low ceiling, which is a bit of a strange combination of an archetype. But like I said, the only thing, and I don't want to like retcon it. We all had a live reaction on the draft. He was not any of our top choice at 16, even with those who fell. But in terms of, like I said, I can only evaluate what I believe in, and I do believe the shot will eventually come around, and the summer league looked even worse than expected because of that, because it didn't that quickly. But also the concerns of creating his own shot and defensively are absolutely there. And I will say my bigger concern with his athletic profile is still trying to find minutes next to Maxey. I do think he can play off of Embiid offensively and find a role, but I still struggle to see how he can fit alongside Tyrese on the defensive side.
We all silly like the mayor.